The year 3124, humanity had become a puzzle no one in the galaxy could solve. They were newcomers to the stars, barely 1,000 years old as a spacefaring species, but they had spread farther and faster than any other intelligent race. While most aliens took centuries to adapt to new planets, humans thrived almost anywhere. Toxic atmospheres? No problem. Radiation storms? They shrugged it off. Even deadly plagues that wiped out entire alien colonies seemed to bounce off them like raindrops on glass. Dr. Cale Vorn, a tall, gray-skinned scientist from the aquatic planet Lysara, stared at his holographic display aboard the Ecliptica, a state-of-the-art research vessel. His team of xenobiologists had been sent by the United Species Alliance, USA, to figure out why humans were so unkillable. It wasn't just luck. There was something deeper going on, something hidden in their biology or history, and Cale intended to find out. The mission began with a visit to Terra Nova, one of Earth's oldest colonies. Located on the edge of known space, Terra Nova was infamous for its brutal environment. Acidic winds scoured the surface, and the planet's twin suns bathed everything in lethal radiation. Yet here, humans lived, not just survived, but flourished. Their cities stretched across the horizon, protected by shimmering energy shields, while farms grew food under artificial skies. To Cale, it felt like watching weeds grow through cracks in concrete. Stubborn, relentless, unstoppable. Cale's team landed near New Haven, the largest human settlement on Terra Nova. As they stepped out of their shuttle, the air buzzed faintly with static electricity. The humans greeted them warmly, offering food and shelter despite knowing little about the aliens' intentions. Cale found this odd. Most species would be suspicious of outsiders poking around their secrets. But humans, they smiled too much, laughed too easily, and trusted too quickly. It made him uneasy. For days, Cale and his team collected samples: soil, water, plant life, and even scraps of human hair and skin shed during daily activities. Back in their mobile lab, Cale analyzed the data. At first glance, human DNA looked ordinary, similar to many carbon-based life forms. But then he noticed something strange. Tiny fragments of genetic code that didn't match anything in their database. These sequences were inactive, lying dormant like sleeping soldiers waiting for orders. "What are you hiding?" Cale muttered to himself as he zoomed in on the anomalies. He ran simulations, exposing virtual cells to extreme conditions, radiation, heat, toxins, and watched in disbelief as the dormant genes activated, repairing damage faster than should have been possible. Was this how humans survived? Some kind of self-repair mechanism built into their very genes. Before Cale could dig deeper, disaster struck. A routine experiment involving radioactive isotopes went horribly wrong when a containment field failed. The lab erupted in chaos as alarms blared and warning lights flashed red. 2 human assistants working nearby were caught in the blast, along with 3 members of Cale's team. Everyone scrambled for safety, but the damage was done. When the dust settled, Cale rushed to check on the injured. The sight left him speechless. His own crew lay writhing in agony, burns covering their bodies. But the 2 humans, they stood up, brushing themselves off as if nothing had happened. Their skin showed faint redness where the radiation hit, but within minutes, even that faded away. Cale stared at them, his mind racing. How was this possible? What made humans so different? For the first time in his career, he felt both awe and fear. If humanity truly held such power, what did it mean for the rest of the galaxy? As the humans exchanged nervous glances, unaware of the storm brewing in Cale's thoughts, one thing became clear: the mystery of humanity's resilience was only beginning to unfold. And Cale knew this discovery would change everything, for better or worse. The explosion in the lab had shaken everyone. But it wasn't just the blast that left Dr. Cale Vorn uneasy. It was what came after. The 2 human assistants, Alex and Mira, stood unharmed while his own team suffered severe injuries. Kel couldn't stop staring at them. Their skin had healed completely within minutes, as if the radiation had never touched them. How could this be? Was it some kind of advanced medical technology? Or was it something deeper, written into their very biology? Alex, a wiry young man with sharp features, noticed Kel's intense gaze and gave an awkward smile. We're okay," he said hesitantly. "This kind of stuff happens sometimes." "Sometimes," Kel repeated, his voice low and skeptical. He turned to Mira, who avoided his eyes, fidgeting with her sleeve. She seemed nervous, almost guilty, though Kel couldn't understand why. "We'll explain later," she muttered quickly, glancing at the other humans around them. Her tone suggested she didn't want to say more. "Not here. Not now." Kel clenched his jaw. Something was off. Humans were hiding something big, and he needed answers. But before he could press further, his injured crew demanded attention. Zinara, the amphibian biologist on his team, lay unconscious, her translucent skin blistered and raw from the radiation exposure. Another crew member, Trenk, a burly reptilian engineer, groaned in pain as medics rushed to stabilize him. Kel barked orders, ensuring his team received immediate care, but his mind kept drifting back to Alex and Mira. Later that evening, tensions simmered during a tense dinner aboard the Ecliptica. The human representatives from Terra Nova joined Kel's team for a meal meant to foster goodwill. Instead, it turned into a battlefield of words. Admiral Cythera, leader of the USA military contingent overseeing the mission, wasted no time voicing her suspicions. "These humans are unnatural," she hissed, her insectoid mandibles clicking sharply. Her 6 glowing eyes scanned the room, lingering on Alex and Mira. "Their resilience is dangerous. We cannot trust them." Alex bristled at the accusation. "Dangerous? You think we asked for this? Look, we're just trying to survive out here like everyone else." "But you don't just survive," snapped Cythera, leaning forward aggressively. "You thrive where others die. Why? What gives you this advantage?" Mira placed a calming hand on Alex's arm, silencing him before he could retort. Her voice was soft but firm. "We don't know why we're different. Maybe your scientists will figure it out. Until then, accusing us won't help anyone." Kel listened silently, torn between curiosity and frustration. On one side, Cythera's paranoia made sense. Humanity's rapid expansion across the galaxy had already sparked fear among older species. On the other hand, the humans seemed genuinely confused by their own abilities. Were they truly innocent, or were they playing dumb? The argument escalated when Cythera ordered her soldiers to confiscate all research data collected so far. "This information is too sensitive to leave in civilian hands," she declared coldly. "It belongs to the USA High Command." Kel slammed his fist on the table, startling everyone. "This is a scientific mission, not a military operation. If you take our work, we lose any chance of understanding humanity's potential peacefully." Cythera's gaze locked onto Kel, her antennae twitching with anger. For a moment, it looked like she might strike him down right there. But instead, she leaned back, her tone dripping with disdain. "Very well. Keep your toys. For now. But mark my words, Doctor. If humanity poses a threat, I will act. And no scientist will stand in my way." As the meeting ended, Kel felt a growing wave on his shoulders. This mission was supposed to bridge gaps between species, not widen them. Yet every step forward seemed to dig a deeper divide. Worse still, he couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's secrets were far bigger and far more dangerous than anyone realized. Back in his quarters, Kel stared at the holographic image of human DNA floating above his desk. Those dormant genes mocked him, whispering promises of untold power. Somewhere in those strands lay the truth about humanity's resilience, and Kel knew uncovering it would change everything, for better or worse. Outside, the twin suns of Terra Nova dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the colony. In the distance, the humans went about their lives, oblivious to the storm brewing around them. But Kale understood one thing clearly. First contact had gone wrong, and the fallout was only beginning. The next morning, Dr. Kale Vorn returned to his lab aboard the Ecliptica, determined to unravel the mystery of humanity's resilience. His mind raced with questions. What made humans so different? Was it their biology, their environment, or something else entirely? He couldn't shake the image of Alex and Mira standing unscathed after the radiation blast, while his own team suffered. It wasn't just luck. It was science, and Kale intended to decode it. He began by analyzing the genetic samples collected from the human assistants. Under the microscope, human DNA appeared ordinary at first glance. Two strands twisted together like any other carbon-based life form. But as he zoomed in further, those strange dormant sequences caught his attention again. They were scattered throughout the genome, inactive but present in every sample. Cal ran simulations, exposing virtual cells to extreme conditions, high radiation, intense heat, even simulated toxins. Each time, the dormant genes activated, repairing damage faster than should have been possible. "This isn't natural," Kale muttered to himself, his gray fingers tapping furiously on the console. "No species evolves this way without outside influence." His assistant, Zenara, floated weakly into the lab, her injuries still healing from the accident. Her amphibian body glistened faintly under the artificial lights, though her movements were sluggish. She watched Cal work for a moment before speaking. "You're obsessed with these humans," she said softly, her voice tinged with both curiosity and unease. "Why does it matter so much?" Kale paused, turning to face her. "Because they're not just resilient. They're adaptable. Their bodies rewrite themselves to survive. If we can understand how, maybe we can help other species do the same." Or, he hesitated, his expression darkening. "Or someone might try to weaponize it." Zenara frowned, her large eyes narrowing slightly. "Weaponize? You think Admiral Xithera would go that far?" "I don't know what she'd do," Kale admitted, rubbing his temples. "But I know fear drives people, and entire species, to make terrible decisions. If humanity's abilities are seen as a threat, there will be consequences." As the day wore on, Kale dug deeper into Earth's ancient records, searching for clues about humanity's origins. The archives revealed fragments of history that shocked him. Millions of years ago, early humans, or their ancestors, had faced catastrophic events: asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, ice ages, and even mysterious cosmic phenomena. Each event seemed to push them closer to extinction, yet somehow they survived. More intriguingly, some texts hinted at extraterrestrial involvement, experiments conducted by unknown alien races on primitive hominids. Could it be true? Kale whispered, staring at the data. Had humans been engineered? Were they the result of some long-forgotten experiment gone wrong or right? Before he could explore further, an unexpected visitor arrived. Mira. She stood hesitantly at the lab door, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. "Dr. Vorn," she began, her voice trembling. "I need to talk to you." Kale gestured for her to enter, his curiosity piqued. "What is it?" Mira glanced around nervously before lowering her voice. "You're asking questions no one else has dared to ask. About why we're different. My grandmother used to tell stories, legends passed down through generations, stories about the spark inside us, something given to our ancestors by beings from the stars." Kale leaned forward, his heart pounding. "Beings from the stars? Do you know who they were?" Mira shook her head. "No one does, but she said it changed us, made us stronger, smarter, able to endure anything. Some people think it's a blessing. Others call it a curse." Kale absorbed her words, his mind racing. If Mira's story held truth, humanity's resilience wasn't random. It was deliberate. Someone, or something, had altered them. But why? And what did it mean for the galaxy now? As Mira left, Kale stared at the holographic display once more. The dormant genes shimmered faintly, almost mocking him. He realized then that solving this puzzle wouldn't just explain humanity, it would redefine the future of all intelligent life. And whoever controlled that knowledge would hold unimaginable power. Outside, the twin suns rose over Terra Nova, bathing the colony in golden light. For Kale, however, the dawn felt heavy with uncertainty. Humanity's secret was far bigger than he'd imagined, and uncovering it might come at a cost none of them were prepared to pay. Dr. Kale Vorn spent the next several days buried in Earth's ancient archives, piecing together fragments of humanity's forgotten past. The more he uncovered, the more his unease grew. Humanity's resilience wasn't just a quirk of evolution, it was engineered. Someone, or something, had tampered with their ancestors millions of years ago. But who? And why? The records spoke of cosmic events that had nearly wiped out early hominids, massive asteroid impacts, solar flares that scorched the planet, and even strange visitations from beings beyond the stars. One legend stood out, a tale of the Shapers, mysterious extraterrestrials said to have gifted humanity with the spark. According to the story, these beings had infused early humans with genetic material designed to adapt and survive under any conditions. It sounded like myth, but the dormant genes in human DNA told a different story. Kale shared his findings with Zanara, who listened intently despite her lingering weakness. "If this is true," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "then humans aren't just survivors. They're experiments, living proof of alien intervention. And not just any intervention," Kale added grimly. "This was deliberate. Whoever did this wanted humanity to endure, to thrive." Zanara's large eyes widened as realization dawned. "Do you think they knew what they were creating? A species capable of spreading across the galaxy?" "I don't know," Kale admitted. "But if they did, it raises another question. Why leave them behind? Why abandon such a project?" Before they could delve deeper, Admiral Xithera stormed into the lab, her insectoid frame towering over them. Her mandibles clicked sharply as she glared at Kale. "I've heard rumors about your discoveries," she snapped. "Rumors that humans are not entirely natural." Kale straightened, meeting her gaze without flinching. "Admiral, I'm conducting scientific research. Speculation won't help us understand humanity better." "Speculation," Cythera hissed, her antennae twitching angrily. "You call evidence of alien tampering speculation. This changes everything. If humans were engineered to dominate, we cannot afford to ignore the threat they pose." "They aren't a threat," Kale shot back, his voice rising. "They're victims of circumstances far beyond their control. Whatever happened to them millions of years ago wasn't their choice." Cythera leaned closer, her glowing eyes piercing through him. "Victims or not, their abilities make them dangerous. Imagine an entire species with powers we can't comprehend. Powers that could destabilize the galaxy." Kale clenched his fists, struggling to keep his temper in check. "Fear isn't a reason to act recklessly. We need to study this carefully, not jump to conclusions." But Cythera wasn't listening. She turned on her heel and marched out of the lab, barking orders to her soldiers. Within hours, tensions escalated across Terra Nova. Human settlements came under increased surveillance, and whispers of paranoia spread among the alien crew aboard the Ecliptica. Some believed Cythera's warnings, others sided with Kale, arguing for patience and understanding. Amidst the chaos, Mira approached Kale once again. Her face was pale, her hands trembling. "She's going to do something drastic, isn't she?" she asked quietly. Kale sighed, running a hand over his smooth scalp. "I don't know what she's planning, but yes, I fear it won't end well." Mira hesitated before speaking again. "There's something else you should know. My grandmother's stories. They mentioned a failsafe, something the Shapers left behind in case humanity ever became too powerful." "A failsafe," Kale repeated, his brow furrowing. "What kind of failsafe?" Mira shook her head. I don't know. She never explained. But if Cythera pushes too hard, she might trigger it. And none of us will be ready for the consequences. As Mira walked away, Cale felt a chill run down his spine. Humanity's origins were tied to forces far greater than anyone had imagined. And now, those same forces seemed poised to reshape the galaxy once again. For better or worse, Cale realized the answers lay hidden in humanity's deepest secrets, and uncovering them would come at a cost no one could predict. Outside, the twin suns cast long shadows over Terra Nova, their light dimmed by gathering storm clouds. The air buzzed with tension, mirroring the turmoil brewing within Cal's mind. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain. Humanity's ancient origins held the key to its future, and perhaps the fate of the entire galaxy. Admiral Cythera's paranoia reached a boiling point. Convinced that humanity's adaptability posed an existential threat to the galaxy, she began assembling a secret task force aboard the Ecliptica. Her plan was clear: capture human test subjects, dissect their biology, and uncover the full extent of their abilities, by any means necessary. To her, this wasn't cruelty. It was survival. If humans were engineered to dominate, then containing them now would prevent catastrophe later. Dr. Calvorn tried to intervene, but his protests fell on deaf ears. You're making a mistake, he told Cythera during one heated confrontation in the ship's command center. This isn't science, it's exploitation. You'll only create more fear and hatred. Cythera's mandibles clicked sharply as she turned to face him, her glowing eyes cold and unyielding. Fear is a tool, Doctor. Hatred is irrelevant. What matters is control. If we don't act now, humanity will spread unchecked, consuming resources and destabilizing entire systems. Cale clenched his fists, frustration bubbling beneath his calm exterior. And what happens when they fight back? When your actions spark a war, no one can win. They won't fight back if they're too busy surviving. Cythera replied with chilling certainty. With that, she dismissed him, leaving Cale standing alone in the dimly lit chamber. Meanwhile, whispers of Cythera's plans spread among the human population on Terra Nova. Mira and Alex, still reeling from the lab accident, became key figures in rallying resistance. They knew time was running out. If the Admiral succeeded, countless lives would be lost, and humanity's secrets would fall into dangerous hands. One evening, under the cover of darkness, Mira led a small group of trusted allies to meet with Cale in a secluded clearing outside New Haven. The air was thick with tension as they exchanged information. We've heard rumors about raids, Mira said urgently. They're targeting settlements far from the main colony. People are disappearing. Cale nodded grimly. She's moving fast. Too fast for me to stop her alone. Alex stepped forward, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. Then let us help. We may not have weapons or ships, but we know how to survive. That's something she doesn't understand. Together, they devised a desperate plan. Using stolen data from the Ecliptica, Mira pinpointed locations where Cythera's forces were gathering supplies and equipment. Small teams of humans would sabotage these sites, buying enough time for Cale to gather evidence of Cythera's illegal activities and expose her to the United Species Alliance, USA. The operation began at dawn. Human volunteers infiltrated supply depots, disabling vehicles and sabotaging communication arrays. Though outnumbered and outgunned, their knowledge of the terrain gave them an edge. Each strike forced Cythera's soldiers to divert resources, slowing their advance. But the victory came at a cost. During one raid, a young human named Jace sacrificed himself to destroy a critical fuel depot, ensuring the mission's success. His death sent shockwaves through the community, igniting both grief and resolve. For the first time, humanity united, not just as survivors, but as fighters determined to protect their future. Back aboard the Ecliptica, Cale worked tirelessly to compile proof of Cythera's crimes. He hacked into secure logs, documenting orders for mass arrests and unauthorized experiments. As he prepared to transmit the files to USA High Command, Zenera approached him, her amphibian body trembling with guilt. I've been reporting to her, Zenera confessed, tears welling in her large eyes. I thought I was protecting our species, but now I see what she's doing is wrong. Cale stared at her, torn between anger and sympathy. Finally, he sighed. It's not too late to make things right. Help me finish this. With Zenera's assistance, Cale encrypted the data and sent it off. Within hours, news of Cythera's betrayal spread across the galaxy. The USA demanded her immediate recall, but she refused, doubling down on her mission. Chaos erupted as factions within the Alliance debated how to respond. As the conflict escalated, Mira stood atop a hill overlooking New Haven, watching the twin suns dip below the horizon. She felt the weight of leadership settling on her shoulders, yet also a flicker of hope. Humanity had faced extinction before and survived. This time would be no different. In the distance, the hum of alien engines grew louder. The battle for Terra Nova, and perhaps the galaxy, was just beginning. The battle for Terra Nova intensified as Admiral Cythera, now branded a rogue agent by the United Species Alliance, USA, doubled down on her mission to subjugate humanity. Her forces launched coordinated attacks on human settlements, capturing civilians and destroying infrastructure in their wake. The once thriving colony of New Haven was plunged into chaos, its streets filled with smoke and the cries of those caught in the crossfire. Amidst the turmoil, Elena Vega emerged as an unexpected figure of hope. Orphaned during one of Cythera's raids, Elena had always been ordinary, just another face in the crowd. But grief and desperation awakened something within her. When soldiers stormed her makeshift shelter, she fought back, not with weapons, but with raw instinct. Her body moved faster than thought, dodging blows and overpowering enemies with strength she didn't know she possessed. By the time reinforcements arrived, Elena stood amidst a group of stunned soldiers, breathing heavily but unharmed. Word of her actions spread quickly. Mira and Alex brought her to Dr. Calvorn, who immediately recognized the significance of what had happened. Her adaptive genes, Cale murmured, scanning Elena's DNA. They're activating at an unprecedented rate. She's not just healing or surviving. She's evolving. Elena sat silently as Cale explained his findings, her dark eyes wide with disbelief. What does this mean? She asked softly. Why is this happening to me? It means you might hold the key to understanding humanity's full potential, Cale replied. But it also makes you a target. If Cythera finds out about you. He didn't need to finish. Elena nodded, determination replacing fear in her expression. Then we can't let her find out. Not until we're ready. Under Cale's guidance, Elena began training to control her newfound abilities. At first, they were unpredictable. Bursts of speed, heightened senses, even moments of precognitive reflexes that allowed her to anticipate danger. But over time, she learned to harness them, channeling her powers into precise movements and strategies. Mira and Alex joined her, teaching her guerrilla tactics honed through years of survival on Terra Nova. As Elena grew stronger, so did the resistance. Human fighters used hit-and-run tactics to harass Cythera's forces, striking where they least expected it. Meanwhile, Cale worked tirelessly to expose Cythera's crimes to the galaxy. With Zenera's help, he broadcast encrypted messages detailing the Admiral's atrocities, rallying support from sympathetic alien species and factions within the USA. The turning point came when Cythera targeted New Haven itself, intending to crush the heart of the rebellion. As her fleet descended upon the city, Elena led a daring counterattack. Using her enhanced speed and agility, she infiltrated enemy lines, disabling key systems and sowing confusion among the troops. Her presence inspired others to fight harder, their courage bolstered by the sight of one of their own standing against impossible odds. In the heat of battle, Alina faced off against Cythera herself. The insectoid admiral towered over her, mandibles snapping as she lunged forward. For a moment, fear threatened to overwhelm Alina, but then she remembered Jace's sacrifice, Mira's bravery, and Kel's belief in humanity's potential. Drawing on every ounce of strength, she dodged Cythera's strikes and delivered a single devastating blow that sent the admiral sprawling. Though Cythera escaped, her forces retreated, leaving Terra Nova battered but free. Alina stood amidst the ruins, her chest heaving as cheers erupted around her. She wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was a symbol of resilience, and proof that humanity's greatest weapon was its unity. As the twin suns rose over the horizon, casting light on the scars of war, Alina knew the fight wasn't over. But for the first time, she felt hope, not just for herself, but for all of humanity. The victory at New Haven was bittersweet. While Cythera's forces had been driven back, the cost was devastating. Entire neighborhoods lay in ruins, and countless lives were lost. The survivors worked tirelessly to rebuild, their spirits buoyed by Alina's heroics. But beneath the surface, cracks began to form within the alliance itself. Dr. Kel Vorn noticed it first. Zinara, who had redeemed herself by aiding Kel in exposing Cythera, grew increasingly distant. Her once enthusiastic contributions to the research dwindled, replaced by long silences and furtive glances at her communication device. When Kel confronted her one evening in the lab, she hesitated before confessing. "I've been sending updates to Admiral Cythera," Zinara admitted, her voice trembling. "Not because I agree with her methods, but because I believe humanity's abilities could destabilize the galaxy if left unchecked." Kel stared at her, betrayal burning in his chest. "You think leaking our plans will solve anything? You've endangered everyone here, including yourself." Zinara's large eyes filled with tears. "I didn't know what else to do. Every species fears humans now. If we don't find a way to control this situation, there will be war. A war no one can win." Her words struck a nerve. Kel knew she wasn't entirely wrong. Fear of humanity's potential had already fractured the United Species Alliance, USA. But betrayal wasn't the answer. Before he could respond, alarms blared throughout the Ecliptica. Cythera's fleet had returned, with reinforcements. Chaos erupted as enemy ships descended upon Terra Nova once again. This time, they came prepared. Ground troops deployed advanced weaponry capable of neutralizing human resilience, while orbital bombardments targeted key resistance strongholds. Mira and Alex scrambled to organize defenses, but the odds were stacked against them. Even Alina, despite her growing powers, couldn't hold off such overwhelming force alone. Amidst the chaos, Zinara made a choice that would change everything. As Cythera's soldiers stormed the lab, she stepped forward, placing herself between them and Kel. "Take me instead," she said firmly, her voice steady despite the terror in her eyes. "I gave you the intel you needed. Leave the others alone." For a moment, Cythera's insectoid gaze lingered on Zinara, her mandibles clicking thoughtfully. Then she nodded curtly, signaling her troops to seize her. As Zinara was dragged away, Kel watched helplessly, guilt warring with anger. He had trusted her, and now her actions had put them all in greater danger. With Zinara gone, the team regrouped in secret. Alina, battered but resolute, took charge. "We can't keep fighting like this," she said, addressing the remaining resistance members. "We need to strike where it hurts most." Cythera's command ship. Kel agreed, proposing a risky plan. Using data recovered from Zinara's terminal, they identified vulnerabilities in Cythera's flagship. A small strike team, led by Alina, would infiltrate the vessel and disable its weapon systems, giving the resistance a chance to turn the tide. As the team prepared for the mission, Mira approached Kel privately. "Do you think Zinara did the right thing?" she asked quietly. Kel sighed, rubbing his temples. "I don't know. She betrayed us, yes, but she also tried to protect us in the end. Maybe she saw too late what her choices truly meant." Mira nodded, her expression troubled. Let's hope it's enough. Under cover of darkness, the strike team launched their assault. Elena moved like a shadow through the corridors of Cythera's ship, her heightened senses guiding her every step. Behind her, Mira and Alex provided cover, their determination unwavering. Together, they'd reached the central control room, disabling the weapon systems just as the Resistance launched a counteroffensive below. But the battle wasn't over yet. As the team fought their way back to the escape pods, Cythera appeared, blocking their path. Her glowing eyes locked onto Elena, hatred radiating from her every movement. "You think you've won," she hissed. "This is only the beginning." Elena stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "No, it ends here." The confrontation loomed large, the fate of Terra Nova, and perhaps the galaxy, hanging in the balance. The standoff between Elena and Admiral Cythera crackled with tension. The insectoid admiral loomed over her, mandibles snapping like jagged blades, her glowing eyes piercing through the dimly lit corridor. Behind Elena, Mira and Alex braced themselves, weapons raised but knowing full well they couldn't match Cythera's strength, not without a miracle. "You're just a child," Cythera sneered, her voice dripping with disdain. "A single spark in a firestorm you don't understand. Do you really think your little rebellion can stop me?" Elena didn't flinch. She stood tall, her chest rising and falling steadily as she met Cythera's gaze. "Maybe I'm just one person," she said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. "But I'm not alone. And we've already proven that humanity doesn't back down." Cythera hissed, lunging forward with terrifying speed. But Elena was faster. Her adaptive genes surged to life, granting her reflexes far beyond human limits. She sidestepped the attack, delivering a swift kick to Cythera's midsection that sent the larger alien stumbling backward. The movement shocked even Elena herself. She hadn't known she could move like that. Mira and Alex seized the moment, firing stun blasts at Cythera to keep her distracted. The Admiral deflected most of them with her armored exoskeleton, but the barrage gave Elena time to regroup. Each second fueled her determination. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about proving that humanity's resilience wasn't a curse. It was a gift meant to unite, not divide. As the fight raged on, Elena tapped into abilities she hadn't fully understood until now. Her senses expanded, allowing her to anticipate Cythera's every move. When the Admiral swung again, Elena ducked under the blow and countered with a precise strike to a weak point in her armor. Sparks flew as circuits shorted out, forcing Cythera to stagger back. "You shouldn't exist," Cythera roared, her voice laced with fury and something else. "Fear. You're an abomination. A mistake." "No," Elena shot back, her tone sharp and unyielding. "We're survivors. That's all we've ever been. And if you can't see the value in that, then maybe you're the real threat." With one final surge of strength, Elena delivered a devastating blow to Cythera's core systems, disabling her completely. The Admiral collapsed to the ground, her body twitching as power drained from her suit. For a moment, silence filled the corridor, broken only by the sound of heavy breathing. "We need to go," Mira urged, grabbing Elena's arm. "Now." The team sprinted toward the escape pods, narrowly avoiding reinforcements closing in on their position. As they launched away from the flagship, explosions erupted behind them. The Resistance fleet had struck its final blow, crippling Cythera's command ship and scattering her forces. Back aboard the Eclipta, Kel monitored the chaos unfolding in orbit. News of Cythera's defeat spread quickly, igniting outrage across the galaxy. Using hacked communication networks, he broadcast footage of the Admiral's atrocities alongside testimony from Zenara, who had been captured during the raid. Her confession exposed not only Cythera's crimes, but also the USA's complicity in ignoring humanity's plight for too long. The response was immediate. Public opinion shifted dramatically, with countless species rallying behind humanity's cause. Even factions within the USA High Command condemned Sci-Fi's actions, calling for unity rather than division. In the aftermath, Alina addressed the galaxy via holographic transmission, standing alongside Kale and Mira. Her words were simple yet powerful. We aren't asking for dominance or special treatment. We're asking for a chance to live, to grow, and to share what we've learned. If we work together, there's no challenge we can't overcome. Her message resonated deeply, bridging centuries of mistrust and fear. For the first time, humanity wasn't seen as a threat. It was seen as a partner. As the twin suns rose over Terra Nova once more, casting golden light across the battered colony, hope began to take root. The battle may have ended, but the journey toward understanding was just beginning. And Alina knew that whatever came next, humanity wouldn't face it alone. The fallout from Sci-Fi's defeat rippled across the galaxy, forcing the United Species Alliance, USA, to confront uncomfortable truths. Emergency summits were convened on Eridanus Prime, a neutral planet known for its diplomatic neutrality. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered in the Grand Amphitheater, their emotions ranging from anger to curiosity, and for some, reluctant admiration for humanity's resilience. Dr. Kale Vorn stood at the center of it all, presenting his findings with calm precision. Holographic displays floated above him, showcasing humanity's dormant genes, their adaptability, and the ancient extraterrestrial influence that had shaped them. Humans are not a threat, he said firmly, addressing the assembly. They are survivors, engineered by forces beyond our comprehension to endure and thrive. Their abilities are not weapons. They are tools meant to inspire cooperation. His words sparked heated debates. Some delegates argued that humanity's rapid expansion still posed risks, while others pointed out how fear and misunderstanding had nearly led to catastrophe. Admiral Sci-Fi's actions cast a long shadow over the proceedings, reminding everyone of what unchecked paranoia could unleash. Alina Vega took the stage next, her presence commanding silence. She wore simple clothes, but her eyes carried the weight of everything she'd endured. "I'm not here to ask for pity or forgiveness," she began, her voice steady yet heartfelt. "I'm here because we have a chance to learn from each other instead of fearing one another." She recounted her journey, from losing her family to discovering her own potential. "When I first realized what I could do, I was scared. I didn't understand why I was different. But now I see that being different isn't something to fear. It's something to embrace. Humanity's strength lies in our ability to adapt, yes, but also in our capacity to care for one another. That's who we are." Her speech struck a chord, earning murmurs of approval even from skeptical delegates. Mira joined her on stage, adding her perspective as someone who had grown up hearing stories of humanity's mysterious origins. "We don't know why the Shapers gave us this gift, or if they even intended it as a gift," she admitted. "But we can choose how to use it. Instead of letting fear divide us, let's work together to unlock its full potential for everyone." The turning point came when Zenera appeared via hologram, her amphibian features tinged with shame. Though imprisoned for her role in aiding Sci-Fi, she spoke candidly about her mistakes and motivations. "I thought I was protecting my people," she confessed, "but I only made things worse. Humanity isn't the enemy. Fear is. And if we can overcome that fear, we can build something greater than any of us imagined." Her honesty swayed many undecided delegates, shifting the tide toward unity. By the end of the summit, a historic resolution was passed. Humanity would be granted equal status within the USA, with joint research initiatives established to study adaptive biology responsibly. The decision marked a new chapter in interstellar relations, one built on trust rather than suspicion. As the delegates dispersed, Kale approached Alina, pride evident in his expression. "You did it," he said softly. "You changed their minds." Alina shook her head, smiling faintly. "Not me. All of us. Together." Outside, the skies of Eridanus Prime shimmered with starlight. a reminder of the vastness waiting to be explored. For the first time in years, hope outweighed fear. Humanity wasn't just surviving anymore. They were thriving, hand in hand with the rest of the galaxy. And though challenges lay ahead, they faced them united, ready to write a brighter future for all intelligent life. Months after the summit on Eridanus Prime, the galaxy began to heal. The scars of conflict still lingered, burnt-out colonies, displaced families, and fractured alliances, but hope was slowly taking root. Humanity's place among the stars had been secured, not through force or fear, but through understanding and cooperation. It was a fragile peace, but one worth fighting for. Elena returned to Terra Nova, where rebuilding efforts were in full swing. The colony buzzed with activity as humans and aliens worked side by side to restore what had been lost. Energy shields hummed back to life, protecting the settlement from the planet's harsh environment, while new crops sprouted under artificial skies. For the first time, Terra Nova felt like more than just a refuge. It felt like home. Elena spent her days mentoring others who showed signs of awakening adaptive abilities. She taught them how to control their powers, drawing from her own experiences. It's not about being stronger or faster, she told a group of young trainees one morning. It's about using these gifts wisely, to protect, not dominate. Among the trainees was a shy teenager named Lyra, whose body could generate bursts of heat when stressed. At first, Lyra struggled to control her ability, accidentally scorching everything she touched. But with Elena's guidance, she learned to channel her energy into useful tasks, like repairing damaged machinery or warming shelters during cold nights. Watching Lyra grow confident reminded Elena of her own journey and gave her hope for humanity's future. Meanwhile, Dr. Kayla Vorn spearheaded the Joint Research Initiative aimed at studying adaptive biology. Laboratories across the galaxy opened their doors to scientists of all species, fostering collaboration instead of competition. Together, they unraveled the mysteries of humanity's dormant genes, discovering applications that benefited everyone. From medical breakthroughs that accelerated healing to technologies that allowed other species to adapt to hostile environments, the project became a symbol of unity. Kale often reflected on how far they'd come. Once driven by curiosity alone, he now saw his work as part of something greater, a bridge between species. Science isn't just about answers, he told Elena during one visit to Terra Nova. It's about asking the right questions and listening to the responses. As the years passed, humanity took its place as equals among the stars. Trade routes expanded, cultural exchanges flourished, and shared missions explored uncharted regions of space. Humans brought their resilience and ingenuity, while alien species contributed wisdom and technology honed over millennia. Together, they formed a tapestry richer and more vibrant than any single thread. One evening, Elena stood atop a hill overlooking New Haven, now rebuilt and thriving. The twin suns painted the horizon in hues of orange and gold, casting long shadows over the bustling city below. Beside her stood Mira, who had become a close friend and ally. "Do you ever wonder what the Shapers wanted?" Mira asked, breaking the silence. Elena smiled faintly. "Maybe they wanted us to figure it out ourselves, to find our own way." Mira nodded thoughtfully. "Either way, I think we're doing okay." In the distance, starships launched into the sky, carrying explorers toward distant worlds. Somewhere beyond those stars lay untold mysteries, new challenges, new discoveries, and new opportunities to grow. As Elena watched the ships disappear into the void, she felt a deep sense of purpose. Humanity wasn't perfect, but they were learning. And in a universe so vast and unpredictable, that was enough. The camera panned outward, showing Terra Nova as a tiny speck against the endless expanse of space. The galaxy stretched infinitely before them, brimming with possibilities. Whatever came next, humanity and their allies would face it together. After all, survival wasn't just about enduring, it was about thriving. And for the first time, they truly understood what that meant.